Hi everybody, welcome to the summer course CTRD 6000 Language and Literacy in the Content Areas. This is a piggyback course, so we have undergraduates and graduate students together taking the course. And Dr. Murray and I are co-instructors. So he is the reading specialist and I work with English language learners. And so we're going to combine and co-teach together. Excuse me one second. Come on, Dex, give me the pen. Okay, so meanwhile our dog is chewing up a pen. Be careful, Finch.
Oh,
It's not
I want to
happening?
chew it. Let him chew
No. Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm from Richmond, Virginia, and I got my undergrad in English and secondary education in Boston, Massachusetts at Eastern Nazarene College. So my undergrad in English and secondary education. My first teaching job, though, was a couple years after I graduated when I found a 1-800 number in the newspaper to teach English in South Korea. So I applied for the job and they interviewed me at Denny's, and within a couple months I was on my way to South Korea, and that's where I first started teaching and really actually fell in love with teaching ESL as in particular. So I got my master's in applied linguistics, and then I came back to the United States and worked in Georgia for 20 years teaching ESL. Thank you, at Cass Middle School in particular. In Cartersville, Georgia. That's where my husband and I worked. We basically met in Georgia, and that's where we lived. And that's where we had our son, Finch, who you'll meet in a few minutes. So after about 15 years or 17 years of that, I got my EDD in school improvement from the University of West Georgia, with an emphasis on teaching English language learners in mainstream classrooms. So this is my 7th year at Auburn. I'm an associate professor of ESL education, and it's a graduate program. So any of you who maybe down the road are thinking about getting your master's degree, you're welcome to come check us out. Okay, so a little bit about myself as a reader. I've loved to read my whole life. I've always loved to read. I still love to read. I don't get as much chances to read as I used to when I was younger. But one of my earliest memories was going to the library with my mother. And we would each come home with our own big stack of books, big library stack. And my mom would read her books and I'd read my books. I have visions of my mother. I just remember her always bringing home lots of books, and she'd read a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Am I kind of like that now, Finch? Yeah, kind of, yeah, I know. So that's one of my early memories as a reader. And I that's one of my easy ways to gain knowledge is through reading. I'm not as good at just sitting and listening to somebody tell me something. I need to read it and see it for it to make a lot of sense for me. A little bit about my funds of knowledge, and we're going to work with this a little bit more, but basically the idea of funds of knowledge is what are we coming to the classroom with, and what are our children, what are our students coming to the classroom with. This is a different way of thinking about students. We want to walk into our rooms and recognize that everybody comes to us with something. It's easy to fall into the trap of, well, they can't do this and they can't do that. But the fact is that students are coming to us with a wealth of knowledge from their home lives and the way that they have experienced the world. And what we want to do as teachers is tap into that and understand that a little bit more. And also, in order to do that, we need to also understand our own funds of knowledge and how we are coming to the classroom, how we are interpreting the world in our text and the content that we're teaching. So when I think about my funds of knowledge, I would say high on the list is my international living experience. Being a person who lived in another country where I didn't know the language and I didn't look like everybody else in the room, I was clearly an outsider. Made a big impact on the way I see the world and the way that I view what I do. When I walk into a classroom, that's one of the first things that's one of the first filters that I use, is having that experience of being an outsider like that. And so I can better understand my students who are also outsiders. When we consider that 85% of the teaching force are white and female, then we need to understand that most of our students in our rooms are not going to be students who are like us. And so how can we better tap into those experiences? And if the students are like us, if we happen to be part of the demographic that our students are, then we have an advantage of being able to walk into the room and they can feel comfortable and we can feel comfortable. But if that doesn't happen, then what do we need to do? We need to acknowledge where we're coming from, and then we need to seek out what our students are where our students are coming from. So my international experience is huge for me. I would also say that a big funds of knowledge for me is my experiences of stuttering when I was in school. This is going way beyond 3 minutes, sorry guys. I was a stutterer growing up all through school, so I have this experience of having a very difficult time talking. What, Finch? Clearly I don't have that problem now. So, but those experiences are a filter for me, and when I walk into a classroom, again, this is part of what I bring into the classroom and how I interact with what's happening in there. Another completely different kind of fund of knowledge that many of you might be able to relate with is growing up in a Christian home. And so I am familiar, even today, with all of the stories that the Christian faith brings to our world. And so when I come to the classroom, I have that background knowledge is already there for me. If my students also have that similar background, then we have the same stories and we can easily talk to each other. I mean, those metaphors and alluding to Noah's Ark, for example, won't be a mystery to other students, many students, because we both share that same knowledge. Students who don't come from that same faith background, however, are going to struggle. So knowing that that is my faith background allows me to be aware of it and also to bridge the gap for my students. And to at least be cognizant that if I speak of something, not everybody knows about it. And finally, I would say the last thing I wanted to bring to the Funds of Knowledge table is my experience with being an athlete and growing up playing sports and watching sports. And my dad was an athlete and my brother. And so we were a big athlete family. I'm not really so much now, but I was. And so I understand teamwork, sports analogies. I understand how to relate to people in an athletic way because I was that way myself. Okay, so now I want to introduce you to my son. Come on over, Finch. We're going to have a quick little book chat. Finch is, how old are you, Finch?
I'm 8 years old.
8? 8 years old already? What grade are you in?
I'm in 2nd grade.
So what does that mean? You're going into what grade now?
3rd.
Wow. How was your 2nd grade year? Did you have a good year?
I like it. It was nice.
What school do you go to?
Creekside.
What was your favorite thing about school this year?
I liked it when I went to go home. I liked recess.
Going home was your favorite part of school?
I like specials.
What special did you like the best?
Computer.
What did you learn this year? Anything?
I learned coding from Miss Levins.
Cool. You like computers, don't you?
Yeah. That's really my thing.
Is it?
I did some art with Miss Kuhn, our art teacher.
I think you're pretty creative. Do you feel creative?
Yes.
Okay. Well, this is a reading class, so we want to talk about reading for a minute. I thought you could do a little quick book talk with my class about what books you've been reading and what you've been getting out of them. So I'm going to turn this towards you a little bit.
My first favorite book is Prince Caspian. How Prince Caspian and his army of talking beasts conquered the Termlands. How do you pronounce that actually?
I think it's Telmarans.
The Telmarans had taken over and made the talking animals go silent, and the King Miraz, I think, somewhere in there. He was fighting Prince Caspian, his grandson, I think, and Prince Caspian ended up winning.
Okay.
My second favorite is Get Fuzzy. Blueprint for Disaster.
Why do you like this?
Cause it's got a lot of funny jokes in it. Like this is one of those things where, what do you call these?
What do you mean? What do
Like they're getting
oh, it's like the cartoon segment? Is that what you mean? Or this little part here?
Yeah.
Oh, those are horoscopes.
This is one of the horoscopes. Interactions with children today will be rewarding. They have much to offer. Slurp, 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 slurp. He's sucking on a baby bottle. And then, what time is it? Hold on. Okay. I know it's 2002, and that's not a very good watch. You fixed it.
Okay. So you like you like books that make you laugh?
Sometimes, yes.
What other kind of books do you like?
I like history books sometimes. How you doing today, Buckster? I'll have you know, I rock. The ferret is locked up next door. I found where you hide the kitten nibbles. And Satchel just had a bath. Today I am master of all before me. Bonk. Maybe you could work on mastering the stuff behind you. Sorry.
All right. So later in the semester, we'll do a little more with Funds of Knowledge, and I'll tell you a little more about Finch when we get to that. I've got a little bit about his Funds of Knowledge and where he learns a lot of what he learns. You like to read? What does your dad do for a job?
Nothing.
No, what does he really do?
Mom does the jobs.
Oh, okay, right. I've got the job.
He's free.
I've got the job that pays the money, right? But what does your dad spend all his day doing?
Work.
Yeah, what's he
Just
doing?
working.
What's he doing?
Building a house.
There we go. Dad's building
Let's
a
show him.
house.
Let's show him.
It's too dark.
I can brighten it.
You think so?
Mhm.
Well, maybe we can do that another day. We can make an extra video, okay? All right, so that's it. We've gone way over our time, and we'll talk to you guys later, okay? You want to say bye, Finch? Adios?
Adios.
Bye bye.